Hello and welcome to In Stitches. Another donation from a very kind customer has arrived, and this is a Singer 328K. She called me and said that she had this lovely machine here in a cabinet, and she wasn't really all that interested in the machine, although she did mention to me that she really did like the colour scheme, and I really do as well. That's a really neat sort of coppery colour with the darker brown here and sort of a reddy brown. It's not probably coming through on camera. It looks quite pale on camera, but this is sort of a reddy brown. Yeah, it's got a sort of a slight reddish, pinkish tinge to it. Yeah, so she wanted the cabinet alone because apparently it's a lovely cabinet, and she wants to use it as a little side table type thing in her house, and she wasn't interested in the machine at all. So she gave me a call and asked me if I wanted it, and I gratefully accepted it. I'm not too sure what I'll do with the machine. The thing is that it is made for the American market, and the reason I say that is the foot controller is volts 95 to 145 volts, and so that's within the range, for a 110 volt North American power system, and also it's got the North American style plug there with just the two prongs, straight up and down prongs, whereas our power system is 240 volt, and we've got that type of plug there with the sort of angled type terminals there. This one here is the earth pin, which on this machine here there's no earth, so it'll be a double insulated machine. Yeah, I don't think the charity shops would accept it. They probably would, but they'd chop the cable because they wouldn't want anyone doing the old trick that people do here with these straight plugs, is they bend the pins out with pliers and plug them into one of our sockets, which is fine on a multi-voltage machine, but certainly not one that's rated at 100 and maximum 145 volts. If you plug this into 240 volts, it would ruin the machine and probably ruin your day, by the way. Yeah, so it wouldn't go well. One thing I did notice straight off the bat is it's locked solid. So I thought today we'll go through and figure out why it's locked up, general assessment of the machine, do a bit of oiling, bit of cleaning. A box of attachments comes with it here. I'm pretty sure it was sold in America, I would say, but made in Great Britain. So there's the little box of accessories there. I'd say fairly original bits and pieces, so that's good to see. Now it did come out of a cabinet, so it would have had some sort of arrangement where the foot controller would have been mounted probably to the side inside of the cabinet, and this would have been bolted probably to the back. I was going to say probably that way because you push with your knee this way, and that this here will push against the foot controller. Yeah, in fact it's probably mounted that way because I can see a little mark just on top of there where this has been rubbing, probably like that arrangement there, I would say. So it's a knee lever style. I guess you could just remove the foot controller and use it normally. I'm not sure how the cabinet was arranged. Now, for those who have watched some of my recent videos, and probably some of the older ones also, I mentioned this. First thing I normally do is I check the capacitor in the foot controller. I'm not going to do that first at this stage because I just want to see if I can get the machine unseized, unlocked, and if I can, well then I'll come back and check the capacitor in the foot controller there. So let's make a start and see where this lockup might be. An educated guess would be that the hook is locked up somehow. There's a piece of thread jammed in it, or it's just been sitting for such a long time that it's actually seized up. But that would be my pick. Or could be needle bar, potentially. You know, could be any number of things, but first thing I'm going to check is the hook, because it's nice and easy. So I'll get you in close here, we'll have a wee look at this. I'll remove the needle just to get it out of the way. It's quite gummed up. The machine's been sitting for a long time, I would say, and we might as well pull the presser foot off there while we're at it. Get a nice clear view of what's going on in here. Slide this back. Yeah, absolutely no movement. Yeah, there is. So it's not the bobbin case. The bobbin case is not locked up. Quite often a machine will lock in this area here, where the hook travels through the bobbin case, the race there, and quite often they can lock up. A bit of thread jammed in there can cause all sorts of havoc. You can see that that's quite free, so it's not the bobbin case. Well, might as well remove it while we're here. It's as easy as just lifting this little retainer here and lifting it and pulling it to the right. Remove the bobbin case. Next thing, I think, will be remove the lid and have a wee look in there, see whether we can track down anything in the top end here. So basically just 2 screws there, one there and one over the back. Nice and easy to work on these machines. So that literally just lifts off like that. Now I can see a little bit of movement in the top shaft. Top shaft runs right along here. I can see a little bit of movement there. So potentially that eliminates the top shaft there. I can see it's quite dry. It's probably not had any oil for a long time. But just that little bit of movement would indicate to me that the top shaft is actually free. And I can see a little bit of movement on the vertical shaft down there where this gear here meshes with that gear down here. That gear there runs a shaft that runs right down to the bottom of the machine. I can see that moving as well, so I don't think that's the culprit. Next thing to check, I think, is probably the needle bar. It's quite likely that the needle bar has locked, but I can see a little bit of movement there as well. So I don't think it's the needle bar. A little bit of movement there. So I'm just using a process of elimination there. And so, top end looks okay. Vertical shaft, probably okay. Let's take a look at the lower end here. Could potentially be the hook main bearings. And we're going to look for a little bit of movement here. When you're doing this, you don't want to be sort of really putting lots of strain on the hand wheel. I'm just sort of wiggling back and forward. I can see this here. That's the bottom end of that vertical shaft I was talking about. It's moving. There's a little bit of movement in this linkage here, but there's not a lot of movement here, and I wouldn't mind betting that this bearing here is the culprit. So I think probably a good place to start would be a little bit of penetrating oil. There's a very small oil hole just here, and I think if I just spray the general area here with a penetrating fluid. Probably need to leave that for a little bit or heat it up. I can see the hook is not moving at all. So yeah, that might need to be left for a little while just to soak in there. So in this situation, while I'm sort of waiting for penetrating fluids to do their thing, is probably just run through oiling and just go through the rest of the oil points for this machine. Just going to slather a bit of oil around this area too, just to make sure that there's plenty there. It could be also, I guess it's possible that this is locked up, but not sure about that. There, it's actually starting to move. There it goes, starting to move there. Just that oil will be working in there. Still tight, but it's coming right. The other place to oil as well is that hole there. Slowly coming right. There we go. Oh, jeez, it's tight coming this way. I'll mop up any extra oil. I just want to make sure that I've got plenty of oil in this area where it's seized. If we come down to the right hand side, we've got oil points here. You do want to be careful when oiling this area here. The electric motor is just in here, so you definitely don't want any oil around the motor. You may hear a little bit of background noise today. Again, I've got the window open, it's pretty warm. Let's not forget the bobbin winder here. Yeah, I can see a bit of surface rust on the bobbin winder spindle there. Nothing too major. I'm not going to go into full restoration mode. Really just getting the machine to the point where it'll sew, and I'll give it a bit of a clean. I'm not going to go too crazy. A basic clean and a lube done for a start. Ah, there we go, starting to free up now. Still a little bit tight. Yeah, it's coming right, slowly. The belt actually, it doesn't look too bad. Part number for that is 193077. Okay, we'll leave that just a little bit more while that's still soaking in there. Let's have a look at the foot controller and just make sure there's no nasty surprises as far as capacitors go. Just all the standard warnings here. Don't undo these screws, take the foot controller apart if you've got your machine plugged in and turned on. I would definitely unplug the machine from the wall to be 100% sure, because we've got live wires in here. No capacitor, so I would say it's probably been removed. Normally there's a capacitor across these two terminals here. On a 240 volt system, that would be a 1 microfarad Class X capacitor. Not too sure what rating that capacitor would be on the 110 volt system. If anyone would care to share that, just leave it in the comments, that'd be appreciated. To the people that are, asking questions in the comments and things like that, apologies if I don't get back to you. It's just that I'm extremely busy at the moment, and well, quite often I'm busy and don't get time to respond to the questions and whatnot. So yeah, apologies for that, but it's very time consuming. It's definitely freeing up there now. It's not as free as it could be, but it's getting there. Let's plug it in and make sure everything's happy. We'll see if we can run the machine. I'm using a step-down transformer, so that takes our 240 volt here and drops it down to 110 volt for this machine. Right, I've plugged the machine into the power. I've got the power at the mains turned off. Let's see if we've got a happy machine here. Oh, we've got light. We have motor power. Yeah, so motor is struggling to drive it. I wouldn't be spending too much time with my foot down on the foot controller in this state because it's straining the motor, but at least we know now that the motor is actually capable of driving the machine. Well, it's getting power at least, but whether the motor's powerful enough to drive the machine or not, I don't know. It could be weak. I'm not too sure, but I think if we just keep working away on this. Slowly getting faster. Not sure what that noise is. Sounding a bit like a traction engine, isn't it? Winding up steam. Quite sure what that noise is though. Oh yeah, zigzag mechanism's putting a little bit of strain on it, but it's not bad. That's great, it's going quite well. Probably need to have a close look at the lubrication points for the zigzag mechanism, and I would get some lube on here. I'm just using standard sewing machine oil. That's all you really need. Standard sewing machine oil. It's got no additives. It's just sewing machine oil. It's been around for a very long time and it works very well. Your sewing machine mechanic should have just bog standard sewing machine oil, your local sewing shop. It's the same oil as you'd find in industrial sewing machines, so it should be fairly easy to come by. That could be just seizing up a little bit. There's possibly an oil point here that I missed. Yeah, I would get oil on those pivot points here as well. you're always going to get a little bit of slowdown, you know, with a mechanical machine, especially at this era. Just the zigzag mechanism just puts a little bit of extra, you know, strain on the system. But that's pretty good. I reckon if I just put this machine together, it'll sew. I'm not going to go too crazy cleaning it at this stage. I mean, there's a little bit of lint down in here. Well, actually what I'll do is I'll go and give it a blowout with the compressor and I'll be right back. Just giving that a good blowout and we can just start putting the machine back together. There's also a little slide block down here for the stitch regulator that is probably a bit difficult to show you on camera, but it's right down in here and it's attached to the other end of this, the pivot point of this here. So you want to get a bit of oil on there as well. Before we go too far, I'll just whip the side panel off here. Let's have a quick look in here. It could probably do with a wee wipe down in here. There's a little bit of something like a white residue. See that there? You know, could do with a wipe, but I'm not going to get too fussy with it today. I just really want to see if it runs, and what I'll do is, you know, if I ever display the machine, I'll go through and, you know, give it a real good clean up. You notice also that it's got the hinges here for the mountings for the table. So what I'll probably do is I'll take those off and might see if I can find a nice base for it, a matching base. It'll be a nice sort of retro machine, I think, for a display piece. Well, actually, for sewing, I would say. I'd say it's going to sew. We'll make it sew. Bobbin case should just fit snugly in there. And don't forget to oil that as well, just on the race there. Just like that. Throat plates, seen better days. I would give that a bit of a clean up there with the, just give it a brush down with the toothbrush there. There's a few little, you know, needle strikes on there. Normally I would go ahead and clean that up with emery cord to give it a bit of a buff and bring that right, but I'm not going to get too carried away today. It's just a quick one to see whether this machine will actually sew. Nice and easy to service, these machines. Just really accessible, you know, and it's obviously made for the user to service nice, you know, it's got nice thumb screws and whatnot. You don't, well, you'd need a screwdriver, just a flat blade screwdriver, just to get the lid off and the side. You can actually do a lot of the oiling, you know, from above here, you know, without taking the lid off. There's little oil holes there for the operator to oil, but you know, to do a proper service you really need to get the covers off and get in there. I didn't check the timing, but we'll see. Let's just see if it sews, eh? We'll soon know if the timing's out. Get a needle in there, press the foot on. Press the foot could do with a clean. Check the bobbin winder there. bobbin winder's working fine. There's no automatic, switch off for the bobbin winder, so that doesn't need checking, but that's winding nicely. It's nice and even. It's good. Install the bobbin. Pretty straightforward threading. Tension's probably not quite right there. Pull up the bobbin thread there. See if she sews. I'll just turn it over by hand for a few stitches, make sure nothing's jamming up there. Sounding good. A little bit loopy there, I'll just increase that tension a fraction. That's probably too much. There we go, perfectly good little sewing machine. Let's try the zigzag. Zigzagging, very nice, neat little machine. Let's try reverse. Yep. There you go, and if you've got the cams, you can just easily remove the cams and put different pattern cams in there. So quite a neat, versatile little machine. So yeah, that's it for this one. I hope you found that helpful and enjoyable, and thank you very much as always to my supporters on Patreon, and thank you very much for watching.